Hey everyone, welcome to the short video series on Elasticsearch in Python. It has been quite some time since I uploaded any video, so apologies for that. I believe there are still several concepts to cover, so without further ado, let's start with today's topic on mappings. So what is mapping all about? As per the Elasticsearch reference, mapping is something which defines a document which can be stored in index. So uh, simply put, mapping are nothing but the underlying data structure which help us out in organizing our data so that we can have better search capabilities and aggregations and take full advantage of the Elasticsearch functionalities that are provided. And if we have a correct mapping, we can scale our data really well without seeing adverse effect in the performance when we are doing any task, be it search or aggregation. So let's get started with the mapping. But before we go with this, in the earlier video comment section, I got a reply asking how we can fire up the Elasticsearch in the backend. The problem was that the user was only connecting the Elasticsearch to the particular endpoint and port without starting it in the backend. So I'll cover up that step as well in this video so that many people, if they are suffering with the same problems, don't have to go through the same struggle. So okay, so we go to so this is the bin directory, and within the bin I just have to run the Elasticsearch binary. And once we do that, our Elasticsearch in the backend would start running up. So we'll get a bunch of logs which are not important. So our Elasticsearch is running. Now what we have to do is use the Python library to connect Elasticsearch from here to the backend that is running. So let's just move on to the mapping part. Now these are the documents that I want to insert, and these consist of the cities that I have been to along with the country name and the date time. It's a random date time which I have put. Let's say the date when I was there in that city. Now in this video we're going to see how we can set our own mapping. And ES is very smart, by the way. So whenever we insert a document, it itself constructs a mapping for us, and we can either provide our own mapping during the index creation or let ES create for us automatically. So now I want to insert these documents, and let's see if we already have any mappings. So get mapping function does that for us, and we have to provide the index and the document type. We can also hit via postman if you want to hit postman or curl request, anything that you want to do. So let's just hit this get mapping function to see what mapping do we already have. Oh, okay. So we got an error, index not found exception. The reason was that we didn't create any index for us. So that's fine. So now what we are going to do, we are going to index, we have to create an index, and we are going to insert the first document, and we'll provide the ID as 1 to it. So let's just run this index function. So okay, so once we run this es dot index function, we get a successful tag as 1. That means the document has been inserted. So now let's see what mapping Elasticsearch created for us automatically when we inserted that. Okay, so this time we don't get an error. Instead we get a JSON response, and here we have a mapping travel for the travel index. Our mappings are, so these are the mappings for all the fields that we had in our document. So if you see cities, within cities we have properties, and now within so cities is the document type. So if you understand the hierarchy, now within that document type we have all the fields. Now mapping in itself is a huge concept, so we're going to ignore this part where fields a keyword and ignore 256, all these things. So basically we have two types of mapping fields. One is keyword and one is text. We keep those two of them for different purposes, but we don't need to focus on that because Elasticsearch automatically creates them for us. So the only thing that we have to focus in this video is date time field. So if you see this date time field, its field has been kept as keyword. That means that Elasticsearch was not able to understand that this is nothing, this is a date time. On the contrary, it considered it as to be a string. So we cannot perform the aggregations which are related to dates. What we can perform queries are of the string types on it. So but ES is smart. Why was it not able to understand? Was the reason that date time can be of various formats. So if they are of some standard formats, ES automatically would have assigned this mapping of date time field as date, but that didn't happen. And so this is where we should construct our own mapping, because it's we can see what mapping ES is constructing, and if we are unhappy with the mapping that has been constructed for us by ES, we can change this particular mapping. Now the problem is that it's a bit lengthy process. The reason being, you cannot change the mapping once the document has been entered. Instead, you have to delete that particular index, and next time when you are creating the index, you can change the mapping. So here what we're gonna do, we know, so here this is the problem, but rest of the mapping is correct, so we are just gonna copy it, and I have already copied it and put it here. So put my mapping function helps us insert mapping inside the ES. So this is our custom mapping. So nothing has been changed except date time. So here I have made its type to be of date, so that now ES can understand this is date, and if you want to do any sort of aggregation on date, it will be able to do it on different bases or different granularities, which we'll cover in the further videos coming up. So here I have provided it type to be of date, and the format has been also provided. Now okay, so let's just run this particular function for us. So we get an error that the error illegal argument exception actually came because our document is already inside the index. It has a specific mapping, and we cannot change the mapping once it's already constructed. So the workaround to this is that we'll delete this particular index. So we'll use the indices.delete function for and provide that index name. So we get an acknowledgement of true, that means the index is deleted. Now we'll further again create the index. Okay, so our index is there. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna run this put mapping function. What we have done is we copied the mapping that was created automatically by ES, and we just changed the type to date, and we have provided a format so that ES is able to understand which is month, which is date, hours, minutes, seconds, and so on and so forth. So we just run this. Okay, so this time the mapping is done. Again, the reason was the mapping didn't exist, and we provided that mapping. Now we get an acknowledgement. So let's just see what mapping do we have. So if we run this again, oh sorry, yeah, so once we run this get mapping function, now if you see that the date time has been changed to date. So yeah, so I hope mapping has been this is a very short basic of mapping. If you want to go learn more, go to this particular link. I'll put this link in the description as well. So mapping is a huge concept. This is like the fundamental first step of mapping. Mostly we can ignore the most of the mapping that has been created by ES, except something like geolocation or date time, which can be considered as string, although we wanted it to be of a date type. So that is it from this video. If you want to know more about the mapping, please link in the comment section so that I can cover different types of mapping that exist and which one to use when. Mostly what ES does it for us is sufficient in most of the cases because it's damn smart. So if you want to contact me, my LinkedIn URL will be down below. Feel free to contact me. Until then, bye bye.